conversation between alleged gang members of the One Don Klansman gang who were instructed by the alleged gang leader Andre Blackman Bryan to carry out a murder of not one but two of their cronies. Bryan allegedly gave the green light to kill the defendants Marco Miller alias Ezzy and Dwight Hall alias Jim Brown because they were suspected of switching allegiance. The former gangster now turned Crown witness gave out in court, quote, "Blackman said don't leave off of the road until someone is dead," end quote. But instead they made a detour to Lionel Town in Clarendon to purchase cocaine. The witness said he accompanied the defendant Stephanie Christie, also called Mama, and Fabian Johnson, known as Crooks, to a location but was told to wait until they got back because the cocaine dealers didn't want a crowd. But the deal was seemingly not closed. Christie was heard saying, quote, "It's like the one where the youth feel, the one they no feel so up. A whole heap them have enough, but them a say them no want really do no transaction in a night. No know if a false money are rare, you know?" End quote. Asked by the prosecution if someone died that night, the witness answered yes, but there was no murder charge of that incident connected to the indictment, so the prosecution could not go any further. Meanwhile, a brief conversation between the witness and a defendant, Jazeel Blake alias Squeeze Eye, about the purchase of a gun revealed some of the coded words used by the alleged gangsters. Blake was heard saying, quote, "Me ask him if him not have no honor, but him say a be a young girl him have right now. Me did a ask about the same 40 teeth," end quote. The witness explained that Hannah is for handguns, 40 teeth means ammunition for a Glock 40 pistol, and an M16 rifle is referred to as young gal, noting that 16 is the assigned number for young girl in the lottery game Cash Pot. The trial will reconvene on Monday at 10 a.m. Robian Williams for CVM Live.
What it do, you two? What the business is? Now, I was in the Bahamas, right? Now I was on Joseph Ave, right? You know, a little down the street from Crack Nation, you know, where they be hanging that, slanging that, banging that, you know, the whole nine, right? Now, I ended up going down the street. Now, I took a left on one street. I went 5 streets down, took a right, and I somehow ended up in Kingston, Jamaica, you know, in a small community, you know, in a treacherous community that they call Spanish Town. Now we gonna touch on the infamous, notorious Klansman gang and they offsprings. You know, the One Don gang. You know who offspring and branched off from them and started warring and killing against each other. Now let's get right into it, y'all. Now, 33 members of the notorious Klansman gang stood trial in what remains today as the largest trial in Jamaica. Now, 15 were sentenced, 17 were acquitted, and one was killed. The charges stem from numerous murders. The head leader, Andre Blackman Bryan, who was the One Don Gang leader and the founder of it, you know, now he was found guilty in 6 murders just himself, you know. Now, I ain't gonna say that's all the murders he committed, but that's just the murders that they found him and charged him for. You know what I'm saying? Now, during the trial, Blackman laughed loudly as they recanted the murders he committed. You know, he was smiling and laughing as they was going back and telling the story of all the victims that he made, you know. Now, but the case collapsed quickly when witnesses were in fear of their life, you know, and they stopped showing up to trial. So they had no choice but to dismiss the case and let Blackman go. Now, they had to move those same witnesses across 3 Caribbean islands. You know what I'm saying? And they had to do that 3 times, man, just to keep them safe. Now, this is the crazy story of the deadly Klansman gang and their feud with the One Don gang out of Kingston, Jamaica, in Spanish Town. Now, the Klansman gang has around 400 members through different fractions. They have corrupt links with the police, international connections, and they even carried out a hit for a famous musician. They made the most off of extortion from public transport, cargo trucks, you know, things like that, you know, and that made them 80,000 to 100,000 a week. Now, a loan company called Torpedo was also paying them 150,000 a month. Yeah, they was getting some money, man. Now, another organization paid them 200,000 a month. And they also made money from weapon trafficking and contract killings and a lot of dope selling. You know what I'm saying? Now, the One Don Gang fraction of the Klansmen They formed after an internal power struggle was in Spanish Town. A little incident occurred within the the leader of the One Don gang, you know what I'm saying, who is Blackman, and his big boss, who was his big boss at the time. We about to touch into him right now, but his name was Tesha. You know what I'm saying? Now, the One Don leader, Blackman, who was once the top hitman for the Klansman gang, he was the top hitman for the Klansman gang's boss, Tesha Miller. Now they split up. In 2017, when Blackman turned on his former boss by killing his associates. You know what I'm saying? He basically did that. He wanted to try to get rid of everyone so he can kind of be on his own, because he felt that as long as they was alive, he was forever forever belonged to them. You know what I'm saying? Blood in, blood out type stuff. So Blackman, he wanted to operate freely. You know what I'm saying? But all that came to a stop when he and his former boss Tesha, who he was trying to kill, were both arrested and charged together for a 2008 murder of a transit worker. It's alleged that Tesha ordered the hit and Blackman was the gunman. Tesha was sentenced to 30 years, 38 years for that, and Blackman was acquitted. Some former members of the One Don gang testified and said they were forced to kill and join the gang by Blackman and his recruits. Now, one time Blackman asked one of his men to search on the internet for who had the highest murder rate in Jamaica. Once he found out that St. Catherine had the highest murder rate, he quickly looked at his hitmen and yelled at them and asked them what was taking them so long to complete the hit list he had gave them. The Klansmen even had their own graveyard cemetery where they buried people they killed and friends who were killed. Now, Stephanie Christie, who was a pastor, was also in charge of the business affairs and connections with the police within the Klansmen and the One Dons. Now, she was charged in a criminal organization case. She was described as someone who was smooth over legal troubles for the Klansman gang. If there was a problem with the police and the Klansmen, she would go and speak with the police to smooth out the issues. Now, Blackman was found guilty in several murders in the trial, including the killing of a St. Catherine couple in 2017 during a search for a rival gangster named Bobo Sparks. He also killed a notorious gangster named Dooley in 2017. A former Klansman member turned informant told the judge he joined the gang when he was 13, but he lost 13 family members due to the gang. Now, he is currently serving a life sentence in prison for murder. Now, Tesha Miller, who said during the trial that he is a welder by profession, has been associated with some of the most heinous crimes in all of Jamaica. Now, the 40-year-old is the known leader of one of Jamaica's most notorious gangs. Now, that gang means order. The definition of their gang means order. To take order, to have order, control. That's all. That's basically the definition of their gang. That's basically their goals in the whole country of Jamaica is to have order. You know what I'm saying? And they have order within the area of St. Catherine, in Spanish Town. You know what I'm saying? And if you ask any Jamaican about Tesha Miller and the Klansman gang, they would tell stories of the gang's alleged affiliation with the People's National Party. You know what I'm saying? The gang's bloody feud with another Spanish Town gang called One Order, in their deadly war that stemmed from numerous murders, and how they elaborated with extortion rackets, which preyed on local businesses in St. Catherine. Now his local business and his heinous treatment was for non-paying customers. You know what I'm saying? Among other tales. So basically how he became the rise within power of the money is for innocent people who had businesses who was handed down to them with generations within their family, or who worked hard to get a business in St. Catherine, and for them to come in there and just take control and just basically forced to extort. You know what I'm saying? Now, in January of 2005, he was freed of triple murders of Orain Jackson, Jeffrey Johnson, and Nicole Allen in St. Catherine. Now, months later, in June 2010, Tesha Miller who was also nicknamed Rat, was acquitted of the 2004 gun murder of John Halton in the home circuit court because of insufficient evidence. Now, he was sentenced in the High Court Division of the Gun Court to 7 years imprisonment for illegal possession of a firearm and 15 years robbery for aggravation, now which led to him filing the appeal. Now Miller fled to the United States after he was freed of gun and robbery charges by the courts in 2013. Now, after he served a prison sentence in the United States, he was deported back to Jamaica in 2016. On his return to Jamaica, he was listed as a person of interest, by the Jamaicans counterterrorism and organized crime investigation branch, and he was asked to report to the police following a spike of murders in the St. Catherine North Division, where the Klansman gang is actively engaged in plenty, plenty murders and shootings. You know what I'm saying? Now, he when he was deported back, he left and tried to get illegal entry back into Jamaica, you know, because he was put out. You know what I'm saying? Now, it wasn't until October of 2018 that he was arrested by police in Jamaica while trying to flee the island to leave. You know what I'm saying? Now, man, it didn't look too good for him, man, because he was sentenced to 38 years on that. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm gonna do a whole nother video and we're gonna touch on your boy, Andre Blackman Bryan, and we're gonna do a whole nother video and touch on Tesha Miller. You know what I'm saying? Now they was once cool, they was once allies, they was once somewhat big homie and little homie. You know what I'm saying? Now, ain't no telling what made Blackman wanna just turn his back and start doing the things that he was doing. You know what I'm saying? As far as the trying to get Tesha Miller out of there, you know what I'm saying? And it was somewhat looked at as a threat, and he didn't want to too much push strong on Tesha because he went for Tesha's associates first. He didn't go straight towards Tesha, So that'll let you know what type of treacherous monster that Tesha was for that man to want to go to his associates first and opposed to want to just go get him first. You know what I'm saying? That probably was a battle he ain't want to face. Now I'm gonna touch a video and we're gonna keep it going on that, man. But Jamaica respect.